I didn't realize how much of my life was defined by money until I started lying about it. And once you start lying, you can't really stop. It just becomes how you breathe. I live in a one-bedroom apartment just outside Columbus. Second floor, thin walls, the kind where you can hear your neighbor microwave something at 3 a.m. The carpet is that dull brown color that never looks clean no matter how much you vacuum. My couch is secondhand and still has this faint smell of someone else's laundry detergent. Sometimes I catch myself leaning into it just to remember that someone else's life once felt softer than mine. I work in a logistics office for a regional delivery company. Basically spreadsheets, delays, complaints about delays, calls from warehouses, everyone blaming everyone else. I wear the same 3 dress shirts in rotation. Gray, light blue, and one white one that has a stain on the sleeve if you look too close. I tell myself no one looks that close. My girlfriend Emma works at a dental clinic. Clean place, bright, smells like mint and latex gloves. She's always well put together. She paints her nails every Sunday night while we watch something on Netflix. She's the kind of person who irons her clothes even if no one will see. I think that's what drew me to her at first. She always seems to be holding her life with both hands. I feel like I'm always chasing mine as it slips through my fingers. The thing about money is that you don't notice not having it when you grew up without it. It's just normal. You find sales, you eat noodles, you make do. But Emma didn't grow up like that. She wasn't rich, but her life had structure. New shoes when her old ones wore out. Family vacations. A savings account started by her parents when she was 6. She still has it. I saw the spreadsheet once. Color-coded, categories, monthly goals, emergency buffer. Her emergency buffer alone is more than I make in 2 months. I didn't tell her how much I owed. Not at first. And then it got harder to tell her later. And then it got impossible. The debt didn't happen all at once. It never does. It was little things. A credit card I opened in college just for emergencies. Books I needed for classes. A laptop, groceries, gas, a car repair. A medical bill when I sprained my ankle and didn't have insurance. Then the interest kicked in and suddenly everything was double, triple, like time itself was punishing me for not being born prepared. When Emma moved in with me, I remember telling myself I'd tell her right away. I even rehearsed it. Hey, I just want you to know I have some debt and I'm working on it. It's not ideal, but it's under control. I said it in the mirror like 10 times. I never said it to her. Instead, I pretended everything was fine. I let her believe I was just less organized than she was. I joked about being bad with numbers. I laughed when she asked why I didn't want to open a joint savings account yet. I told her it was too soon. The truth was that if we did, she'd see everything. Every overdraft fee, every minimum payment, every late notice. One night, she came home with this warm excitement in her voice. She had found flights to Denver on sale. She wanted to go hiking, visit a friend, get away for a weekend. She was already picturing the mountains, the chilly air, the little coffee shop her friend kept texting her about. I felt physically sick. I told her work was stressful. I told her my boss needed me that week. I told her we should plan it a bit later. She kissed me and sat close, leaning her head on my shoulder and said, "We'll go soon then." We deserve nice things. I didn't say anything. Couldn't. The room smelled like her shampoo. The TV was on, playing some show we weren't really watching. I remember noticing a single thread sticking out from my shirt cuff and thinking how easy it would be to just pull it and let the whole thing unravel. Last Thursday, I got a call from my credit card company while she was in the kitchen making dinner. They don't usually call unless something's really late. I slipped into the bathroom and whispered through the receiver like I was cheating on her. "No, I can't increase the payment right now." "Yes, I know. Yes, I understand the consequences." When I came out, Emma was stirring pasta on the stove. Steam rising, the room warm, garlic smell filling everything. She smiled at me like nothing was wrong. I sat down at the table and realized my chest felt tight, like something inside was pushing outward, trying to escape. I think that was the moment I knew eventually everything was going to break. Just not yet. I don't know when I started waking up already tired. Not physically, more like the day was too heavy before it even began. The alarm would go off at 6:45, that stupid default iPhone tune, and I'd lie there staring at the ceiling. The paint above the bed has this tiny crack like a branch, splitting into 2 directions. Every morning I'd decide which direction my day would go, but no matter what, it always seemed to lead to the same place. Emma would still be asleep. She sleeps curled up, knees pulled in, hands under her cheek like a kid. There's something soft about her even when she breathes. Sometimes I'd look at her and feel, not love exactly, though I do love her, more like a kind of ache, that someone so gentle had unknowingly stepped into this mess with me. At work, it got harder to pretend. My manager, Rob, is one of those guys who tries to be everyone's buddy while also being the reason no one has a weekend. He wears polos that are always too bright and laughs a little too loudly. The office smells like printer ink and microwaved leftovers. The fluorescent lights flicker just enough to make your eyes feel tired. Everyone complains about money there. Rent going up, gas prices, groceries. But it's the kind of complaining where everyone still buys takeout twice a week and orders new earbuds because their old ones are kind of annoying. I just nod. I don't mention that I eat oatmeal for breakfast, lunch, and sometimes dinner because it costs $3 for a big container and lasts a week. I don't mention that I've memorized which gas stations drop their prices on Wednesdays. Around mid-September, Emma suggested we start saving for a house. Not soon, she said, but someday. She said it lightly, like a dream said out loud, just to see how it sounds. I froze mid-chew. We were sitting at the counter. She had made roasted chicken and carrots seasoned with thyme. The smell was warm and homey. I felt like I didn't belong in it. I told her I needed to use the bathroom, and I just sat there for maybe 10 minutes, staring at my own reflection. The overhead light was too bright, harsh. My shirt collar was wilted. There were faint purple shadows under my eyes. I didn't look like someone who was building a future. I looked like someone who was eroding. When I came back, I changed the subject. I said something about the movie we'd watched. She didn't push. She never pushes. She trusts me. That's the part that hurts. The debt letters started showing up more aggressively. Not just thin envelopes anymore. Thick ones. Red stamps. Words like final notice and collection action printed in bold. I started getting home before Emma so I could grab the mail first. I kept a stack of envelopes in the bottom drawer of my desk. I didn't even open some of them. Just the weight of them was enough to know what was inside. One afternoon, I got an email, not a letter, from a debt collector. The tone was different, colder, less patient. It said if I didn't respond within 14 days, they would explore further recovery actions. I don't know why that phrase got to me, but it stuck. It sounded like they were hunting something, like I was prey. That night, Emma asked why I'd been quiet. We were on the couch. The TV was on, but neither of us was really watching. The lights were low. The air smelled faintly like her vanilla candle. She tucked her legs under her, wearing those soft gray sweatpants she loves. She looked at me with this open face. No suspicion. Just concern. Are you okay? I lied instantly, smoothly, like breathing. Just tired. She nodded and leaned her head on my shoulder. I felt myself sinking. Like the couch was swallowing me, or maybe I was sinking into myself. I could hear my own heartbeat in my ears. There's this thing that happens when you lie too much. You start existing in a fake version of your own life. You're there physically, sitting next to the person you love, but it's like there's fog between you and them. You watch them love the version of you that doesn't exist, and the real you is somewhere else, watching helplessly. The next morning, I checked my bank app before work. My balance was negative. Again, a subscription I forgot to cancel renewed. $14.99, it might as well have been $1,000. I sat at the edge of the bed with the phone in my hand and felt my chest tighten so much I thought I was going to pass out. I rubbed my face hard, hands smelling faintly like the soap bar we keep in the bathroom. I could hear the shower running, Emma getting ready. She was humming. She always hums in the morning. Something soft. Something calm. I wanted to smash the phone, or scream, or finally tell her everything. Instead, I put the phone down, stood up, and made the bed. Smoothed the sheets. Straightened the pillows. Folded the blanket over the foot. Like if I could make that one thing neat, maybe the rest of my life wouldn't feel so out of control. Emma stepped out of the bathroom wrapped in a towel, steam curling into the hallway. She smiled at me. Morning, I smiled back. It felt like lifting something heavy. We kissed, light, familiar. I went to work. She went to work. And the day kept going. Like nothing was wrong. I started avoiding looking at prices. Not because I didn't care, but because I already knew I couldn't afford whatever it was. Groceries became a quiet calculation. I'd walk through the aisles with a basket, not a cart because a basket physically limits your optimism. Oatmeal, rice, canned beans, frozen vegetables if they were on sale. Emma liked making pasta with tomatoes and basil, fresh basil, so I'd buy it anyway and just figure something else would have to give later. She didn't notice at first. Or maybe she did, but she didn't jump to conclusions. That's the thing. Emma's kindness doesn't have suspicion in it. Just concern. One Thursday evening in October, it was raining. The kind of cold rain that soaks your jeans and makes your socks feel heavy. I came home, shoes soaked through, the bottom of my pants dark from puddles. Emma was sitting at the table with her laptop open, glasses sliding down her nose. She only wears them at home. Something about that always makes her look softer, more human. Hey, she said, smiling. I made soup. It's still warm. The apartment smelled like garlic and carrots and something comforting. I wanted to fall into that smell, like a bed. I towed my shoes off and hung my jacket. I could feel water seeping from my socks as I walked. I didn't say anything for a bit. Just breathed in the space, warm lights, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft jazz she had playing low. She watched me for a moment and her face changed. Subtle, but I knew. Something's wrong, she said quietly. I sat down across from her. The wooden chair creaked the way it always did. The table had a small scratch near my side where I once dropped my keys too hard. All these small familiar details making everything feel tighter, like the world was closing in. It's just work, I said. She stared at me. Don't do that, she said. Not with me. And for a second, I almost did it. I almost told her. The words were right there, my throat tight around them. I could see her leaning forward a little, waiting, giving me space, not pushing, just being there. I could tell she'd listen. She'd try to understand. She'd probably put her hand over mine. But here's the thing. Telling her wouldn't magically make the debt go away. It would just mean she'd carry it with me, and I couldn't do that to her. So I smiled. Small, weak. I'll be okay. She looked at me the way people look at someone standing too close to the edge of something high. She didn't believe me, but she let it go. It was a few days later when everything started to tilt. I was at work when I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I stepped into the hallway by the vending machine. The floor there is always slightly sticky. No one knows why. It was a collections agent. A real one. Not automated. Not polite. Mr. Ramirez, we have attempted to contact you numerous times. Mr. Ramirez, your account is severely overdue. Mr. Ramirez, failure to cooperate may result in wage garnishment or further legal action. Wage garnishment. That phrase hit different. My salary wasn't much to begin with. If they took even a small percentage, I wouldn't be able to pay rent. I pictured my landlord, the hallway with peeling beige paint, the sound of neighbors' TVs through the walls. I pictured Emma standing in the living room, surrounded by boxes, trying to understand how we got there. I hung up. I don't even remember what I said. My ears were ringing. I went to the bathroom and locked myself in a stall. I sat on the toilet lid, elbows on my knees, head in my hands. The bathroom smelled like harsh lemon cleaner, the kind that never quite masks the underlying mildew. I stayed there for almost 20 minutes. No one noticed. That night, Emma was excited about some new savings challenge she found online. She said if we each put aside $50 a week, we'd have enough by spring for a weekend trip somewhere. Somewhere quiet, just us. I nodded along, pretending to look interested, but inside I felt something cold settling in my chest. Like frost forming. During dinner, I found myself staring at her hands. The way she holds her fork lightly, like she's thinking even while eating. Her nails were painted a soft cream color. There was a tiny chip on her index finger. Something about that made her feel so real, so normal, so reachable. And I felt so far away. She talked about maybe visiting her parents at Christmas. About maybe getting a little tree for the apartment. She smiled and laughed and nudged my arm like she always does when she's happy. And I knew she had no idea. None. I was drowning quietly right next to her, and she didn't even see the water. Later that night, while she showered, I opened my desk drawer. The envelopes were still there, unopened, heavy. I pulled them all out and spread them on the floor. The paper felt rough under my fingers. My heart was pounding hard, slow, like each beat needed effort. When Emma came out of the bathroom, hair in a towel, wearing one of my old t-shirts, she froze. Her eyes went from the envelopes to me. She didn't say anything. I didn't either. We just stood there, the whole room silent except for the sound of water still dripping from the shower tiles behind her. Then she sat down on the floor. Not angry, not upset, just there waiting. And I knew there was no more pretending. Not after this, she didn't speak first. That's what I remember most. Emma just sat on the carpet, cross-legged, like she was settling in for something she already knew would hurt. The towel was still wrapped around her hair, and a drop of water slid down her neck and disappeared under the collar of my old t-shirt. Her face was calm, but her eyes weren't. They were focused, steady in a way that made me feel like I'd never really been seen before that moment. I sat down too. The envelopes were between us like evidence in some quiet trial. The room smelled faintly like shampoo and fabric softener and something nervous, something human. "How long?" she asked. Her voice wasn't sharp. It was soft. Not pitying, just tired. Like she was asking how long I'd been carrying a heavy box alone when she was sitting right there with empty hands. I swallowed. My throat felt tight. "A while?" She looked at one of the envelopes. The red stamp across it, urgent. "How much?" I hesitated. Not to hide. Just because saying the number out loud made it real. About 28,000. The quiet after that was loud. I heard the refrigerator hum. A car outside. My own pulse in my ears. She nodded once. Not shocked. Just taking it in. "Why didn't you tell me?" I rubbed my palms together. They felt hot, sweaty. I didn't want you to think I was less broken. Like I needed saving or something. She blinked. Slowly. Then she let out this breath that wasn't quite a sigh. More like something heavy leaving the room. "You really think I care about that?" she said, and I didn't know how to answer. Because I knew she didn't, but I also knew she should. I knew what carrying someone else's mess could do to a person. She reached forward and picked up one of the envelopes. Turned it over in her hand. The paper crinkled. I hated the sound. "Are they calling you at work?" "Yeah. Is wage garnishment a real thing?" "Yeah," she nodded again. Her fingers traced the corner of the envelope. I noticed her hands were shaking just a little. Then she said something I didn't expect. "We'll figure it out." And that broke me, not in a dramatic crying way. More like something inside me just unclenched. Not relief. Not forgiveness, just the truth finally being allowed to exist in the room with us. I leaned forward, elbows on my knees, my hands covering my face. I didn't cry, but I felt close to it. Like tears were there, just stuck behind something. She touched my back lightly. Her hand warm, familiar, not a hug. Just contact, just proof. We sat like that for a while, quiet, breathing the same air. Eventually, she stood up and went to the kitchen. I listened to her fill 2 glasses with water. The sound of the tap running felt strangely grounding. She came back, handed me one, and sat down again, cross-legged, steady. Okay, she said. Tell me everything. No leaving things out, so I did. I told her about the first credit card in college, the medical bill, the job before this one where I made less, the months I made minimum payments and hoped for the best, the overdraft fees, the transfers between accounts, the late notices, the sick feeling in my chest every time I checked my balance, the oatmeal as a lifestyle thing. I talked for a long time. My voice went hoarse. She didn't interrupt, not once. When I finished, she just sat there quietly. Her eyes were tired but not angry. I wish I had known, she finally said, and I believed her. The next few days were quieter than usual. Not tense, just quieter. Like we were handling something fragile. We still ate dinner together. Still watched shows. Still slept in the same bed. But there was a new thing in the room. Not resentment, but awareness. Emma made a spreadsheet. She didn't make a big deal of it. Didn't announce it. I just walked into the living room one evening and she was at her laptop, glasses on, hair tied up loosely, typing numbers into neat columns. Come sit, she said. I sat beside her. The couch cushion dipped slightly under our combined weight. She showed me the plan, payments, priorities, a timeline. It wasn't magic. It wasn't easy. It wasn't fast. It was just possible. When she finished explaining, she looked at me. Really looked. You're not doing this alone anymore. Those words sat in my chest like something warm and heavy. I nodded, but I also felt something else. Something I didn't say out loud. Shame. Not because she was helping, but because she still believed in me. And I didn't know if I deserved that. A week later, my mom called. I ignored it. I always ignore her when money is involved. Because with her, it always is. We talked later briefly. She asked for just a little help. I told her I couldn't. She said she understood. She didn't. We both knew that. Emma didn't say anything about it. She just touched my arm lightly after I hung up. That was enough. That night, we lay in bed facing opposite directions. Not because we were upset. Just tired. The bed felt small. The world felt bigger. I stared at the wall. The crack above the headboard. The branch splitting in two. 2 directions. Both still leading somewhere I wasn't sure I could follow. But she was beside me. And for the first time in months, I didn't feel like I was drowning alone. Things didn't suddenly get better. The movies always cut to the montage. People smiling, paying off debt, making healthy grocery lists. Life isn't like that. Life is grocery store receipts you stare at too long, hoping you miscalculated and somehow owe $9 less than you do. Life is waking up and checking your bank app before you even get out of bed. Life is saying, yeah, I'll come out tonight, and then spending an hour rehearsing how to decline once you hear what the restaurant costs. But there was something different now. I wasn't hiding, and that was strange. Vulnerability doesn't feel warm at first. It feels like standing outside without a jacket in cold wind in public. Everything in you is exposed, and you keep waiting for someone to point at you and say, look at him. Look how messed up he is, but Emma didn't look at me that way. She didn't treat me like I was a burden or a project. She still teased me about how I always leave my socks next to the hamper instead of in it. She still kissed me in the kitchen while reaching past me for a mug. She still played with the drawstring on my hoodie while talking about work. We were still us, just us with less fog. One night, about 2 weeks after the spreadsheet evening, we sat at the small kitchen table paying bills. The table is too small, honestly. Our knees knock into each other underneath it. The overhead light flickers sometimes, like it's about to burn out, but always decides at the last second not to. Emma had her laptop open, glasses on again. I had my phone and a stack of mail, the opened mail now. The envelopes didn't live in a drawer anymore. They lived on the table, in the open. It made the apartment feel more real somehow. Less like a stage set where I was performing competence. We were putting in the payment amounts, slowly, carefully. This one gets $120, she said. We'll pay more later when the card with the higher interest goes down. But for now, minimum plus a bit. I nodded. I felt like a student in a class I'd been pretending to know the material for months. When we finished, she leaned back and stretched, her back popping softly. That's enough for tonight. Yeah. She closed the laptop and turned to me. You okay? I thought about it. I'm embarrassed, I said. Not an apology. Not a defensive joke. Just the truth. She nodded, not surprised. It's okay to be embarrassed, she said. It means you care. Her voice didn't have that comforting, syrupy tone people use when they're trying to soften something. She said it like a fact. like weather, like sunrise. Something in my chest loosened again. We didn't hug. We didn't have some dramatic moment. We just sat in silence for a while, our knees still touching under the table. Work didn't get easier. If anything, it got harder. Stress feels heavier when you're aware of it instead of numbing yourself through denial. I stopped ignoring calls, but I still hated them. I'd step outside during breaks to talk to collectors, pacing in the parking lot, the wind slapping at my shirt. I didn't lie to them anymore. That was the only real change. I started bringing lunch to work. Not even lunch, just leftovers or a jar of rice and vegetables. I stopped going out with coworkers. Not that I ever enjoyed those outings, but avoiding them now meant saying, I can't afford it, which is apparently a phrase that makes people uncomfortable. They always say the same things. Oh no, we can cover you. Come on, don't be dramatic. It's just dinner. They don't understand that it's never just dinner. It's dignity. It's control. It's survival. I didn't explain any of that. I just smiled and shook my head and went back to my desk. Around early November, the car battery died. It was freezing that morning. I remember the air stabbing my nose, the frost across the windshield. I turned the key and heard that clicking sound, the mechanical equivalent of a disappointed sigh. I wanted to laugh, honestly. Of course it died now. Emma was still inside, packing her lunch. I stood in the driveway with my hands in my pockets, watching steam curl from my breath. She came outside, saw me standing there, and understood immediately. How much do new batteries cost? She asked. About 200, I said. She nodded. Didn't wince. Didn't sigh. Didn't say, seriously? Just nodded. We'll handle it, she said. Not you. We took her car to work. Listened to the radio. Didn't talk much. But the silence was okay. Shared. Not heavy. Later that night, she sat beside me on the couch, her legs stretched across my lap, her toes cold against my jeans. We were watching some cooking show, but I wasn't absorbing any of it. Why are you being so calm about all this? I asked. It just slipped out. She didn't look away from the TV. Because loving someone means you don't only stay when it's easy. I didn't respond. I couldn't trust my voice. She nudged my side lightly with her knee. And because, she said, finally looking at me, you'd do the same if it were me. And she was right. I would have. Without question. But the thing about being helped, really helped, is that it forces you to see yourself clearly. And I didn't just see someone struggling. I saw someone who had been running from their own life for years. I saw someone who didn't trust the people who loved him to stay. Someone who didn't think he was worth staying for. And now that everything was out in the open, I couldn't pretend anymore. Not to her. Not to myself. I had to change. Not my spending. Not the debt. Me. And I didn't know how. I didn't have some sudden breakthrough moment. No big revelation. No dramatic scene where I stood in the rain with my arms outstretched or anything like that. I just started doing small things differently. Mostly because I didn't have a choice. I made my coffee at home instead of grabbing it on the way to work. I canceled the streaming services we barely used. I started packing lunch every day. I checked my bank account before making purchases, not after. Little things, boring things, stupid adult things. None of it felt heroic. It felt like cleaning a mess I should have cleaned a long time ago. Emma kept the spreadsheet updated. We met every Friday night, which sounds like some official, tense budgeting ritual, but it wasn't. We sat on the floor, backs against the couch, her laptop between us, the soft glow of the lamp making the apartment feel warmer than it was. Sometimes we talked about money. Sometimes we just talked about work. Sometimes we said nothing at all. Life didn't get easier, but it got clearer. And then Thanksgiving came around. Emma wanted to spend it with her family. I didn't want to go. Not because of them. They're nice, normal people with a nice, normal house and a dog that gets too excited when anyone comes through the door. I didn't want to go because I was afraid. Afraid I'd say something wrong. Afraid they'd figure out I was the kind of man who had let his life collapse quietly in his hands. Afraid of being seen. But we went. The house smelled like cinnamon and roasted turkey and something sweet in the oven. Her mom hugged me too long, like always. Her dad asked about my job, and I lied and said things were good because that's the answer everyone expects unless you're ready to have a conversation you can't leave. We sat around the table. The plates were mismatched, but intentionally so. That kind of curated casual feel that only comes from people who grew up with stability. Emma laughed at something her brother said. She nudged my knee with hers under the table. The room buzzed with warmth and noise and safety, and I felt like I was standing outside the window looking in. That's when it hit me. Not the shame, not the panic, but the weight of being loved by someone like her. Someone who shows up. Someone who stays. Someone who doesn't flinch when things get hard. It's easy to feel unworthy of that, but feeling unworthy doesn't make it untrue. Around mid-December, I got a small raise at work. Not huge, enough to matter, not enough to change everything. Rob called me into his office, made a whole speech about consistency and team value, corporate language that means you didn't quit, and that's honestly good enough for us. I wanted to tell Emma right away. I thought about texting her, but I waited. When I got home, she was in the kitchen, hair up, sleeves rolled, making dinner. Something tomato-y. I could smell basil. I leaned against the counter and said, "I got a raise." She looked up. Her eyes lit, not because of the money, but because she knew what it meant to me. She wiped her hands on a dish towel and hugged me. Slow, steady, her head against my chest. No big smiles, just closeness. We didn't celebrate by going out. We didn't buy anything. We just ate dinner sitting cross-legged on the couch, knees touching, bowls balanced on our laps. And it felt like enough. More than enough. January came, then February. Winter felt long, but different. The debt went down. Slowly, painfully slowly, like watching grass grow. But the numbers changed, even when by a little. That mattered. I still woke up tired. I still felt overwhelmed sometimes. I still had days where I wanted to crawl back into denial and pretend everything was fine. But there was no fog between us anymore. We were in the same life now. Not hers and mine. Just ours. Last week I woke up before her. The sun was barely starting to come through the blinds. The room was dim, the air cold, the blankets warm. Emma was asleep beside me, curled up like always. I watched her breathe. Slow. Steady. I looked up at the ceiling. The crack was still there. The branch shape splitting into two directions. For the first time, I didn't feel like both paths led somewhere bad. One of them led here. To this. Not fixed. Not perfect. Not easy. But real. And I think real is enough. I reached out and brushed a strand of hair away from Emma's face. She didn't wake up. I just sat there a while, listening to her breathe. And for the first time in a long time, I didn't feel like I was drowning.